Lovies, we are here again with Parenting Pause this week, and we want to talk about how messy parenting can sometimes be. Now, being a parent and creating an environment for this new being to learn and to grow, it's inherently stressful. Now, there's lots of love and joy and all of that, but there's often a lot of stress. Most of the time is because of our ideas of who we should be, our ideas of who our children should be, our expectations on how our children should behave, how they should look in the culture, our expectations on ourselves, how should we show up as parents, and how should we talk to our children. I mean, there's so many expectations that come in our lives and in our parenting from the outside, right? So think about it. They come from our families, they come from the culture, they come from everywhere that we have introjected. When you talk about it's kind of introjection is like we kind of swallowed in other people's ideas. And so then we have a really hard time digging through all of the ideas and finding out which ones are ours, right? I found this to be one of the hardest practices, and that's why I created Purejoy, so I could begin to examine what was going on inside versus trying to control everything that was going on outside. So in traditional parenting, again, we see good behavior as the gold standard, and in Purejoy, if we are judging the behavior, which most of us do when we perceive it as a negative behavior that we learned wasn't appropriate, once you're judging the behavior, you are not going to be able to listen to the communication that's going on from the child. And I want you to play with this and examine this yourself, because children just don't walk around hitting people. They don't walk around yelling. They don't walk around rolling their eyes. They don't walk around acting defiant. They don't. I mean, I would say 80% of the time, most children are, if they're regulated and their environment is supportive, they're doing great. But it's like that 20% of the time that when we take them to the restaurant, that's overwhelming, that's loud, that's, all these expectations. Maybe we take them with our family and we have these expectations that a 3-year-old's going to sit at the table and be able to have good manners and make sure all the adults feel comfortable. I mean, come on, that's like crazy. And so then those are the times when we get really stressed out. And then we start to blame the child. We think that 3-year-old is the cause of our stress. Well, examine this. The 3-year-old is just doing what 3-year-olds do. The 3-year-old is communicating their internal experience, often of the stress all around them and all the expectations and all the energy, and it's so much. So then when we put all that energy on the child and then we demand that they behave, we call them disrespectful, we call them bad. It's like really, really crazy when you think about it, because then we're putting the power in the 3-year-old. And we're expecting that 3-year-old, we're thinking they're the cause of our stress, and then therefore they need to fix it. Well, you can try that. I tried it. I know many parents try it. And yet it makes so much more sense to step into your adult capacity and to realize that you're the one that took them into the restaurant. You're the one that had the expectations. You're the one that thought maybe your 3-year-old could do certain things, but when they're not, what would it be like not to guilt them, shame them, punish them, blame them, but to recognize that, hey, they're just not able to manage maybe 5 minutes. A 3-year-old can manage 5 minutes, so you can build up that tolerance. Because, of course, by the time they're adults, they're going to be able to go to that restaurant. They'll be able to enjoy themselves. They'll be able to regulate the stressors and make choices on how to take care of themselves. But when they're 3, nah. And so we have a lot in our culture, a lot of blame. I always like the airlines, like everybody gets so upset about the baby crying on the airline. Like, can you really expect a newborn or a 9-month-old and their ears are going crazy from the pressure? Can you really expect them not to cry? I mean, it's a little crazy. And yes, then we say, well, should we even take them on airplanes? There's so many discussions and all, but if we can open to our compassion, our loving them, like, why aren't we all singing lullabies, to the baby on the plane? I don't know. I probably get a lot of people saying this is absolutely crazy, but that's where I came to in my examination, was that I was often whining and acting like the little kid with my daughter, expecting her to behave in ways that I wasn't able to behave when I was really stressed out. So for me, it became such a beautiful relational piece to recognize that, yes, there was inherent stress in being a parent and creating that environment to get my needs met and my daughter's. Her needs weren't more important. Mine weren't more important. We both had needs, and yet they were different needs. Those young needs are quite different. Those regulatory systems are quite different when they're young. So the more we know our children, the more we can build that tolerance. It's not black or white. It's not like you go to the restaurant or you don't. If you want to support your child and going to restaurants, build it up. Go slowly. Just expect to stay 5 minutes. Expect to stay 10 minutes the next time. And then see what it's like as the tolerance builds in you to go back inside and attend to yourself. And the tolerance can build for your child. They build the skill set. They take time. They don't happen through punishment, consequencing, shaming. Yeah, maybe you can get the kid to sit there and be scared to death. And yet that's not what we want, right? That's not really what anybody really, really wants, even though maybe we want well-behaved children. Well, then learn how to build their skill sets so that they can tolerate the situations they're going into. All right, lovies, so glad you joined me today for Parenting Paused. Got a beautiful 8-week training coming up on the 5 stages of Purejoy. This is my yum yum. This is what I've created, the 5 stages. That it's a very different model than some of the traditional models. So we'll be talking about the methodology and the 5 stages that I started noticing in parenting when folks would come into my office, and then I started noticing those in myself. So if you have an interest, send me an email, Leslie@purejoyparenting.com, and I will send you over the details. All right, loves, have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Purejoy message out. Come on over to the Purejoy Parenting Practice Facebook page or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Purejoy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Purejoy work.